Earlier this ranked season, I decided for the first time in years to have a bash at EUS solo queue. On a fresh account, I grafted from Bronze 4 to Emerald 4 over the course of about a month, playing only in the support role. This took me 80 wins exactly and about 130 games with a 65% win rate. The new LP systems meant that I was gaining large blocks of LP in the beginning, but it also meant that I wasn't able to skip divisions like in the past. Now that it's done, I want to share my experience with you guys in case any of you are looking for some help with solo queue, or maybe just simply looking for a bit of inspiration on your rank journey. To help navigate my advice, I've split this guide into 2 videos. The first is the video that you're watching right now, and this will cover 15 ways that I reprogrammed my brain to help me do better in the ranked ladder. The second video will be a solo queue support guide, which will focus more on the support role, providing 15 practical tips that support players can start implementing in-game today in order to succeed more often. The tips given will apply mostly to Emerald and below, as that is where I feel qualified to help. However, players above this rank may also find use in these points. Here we go. Before you even play a single game of solo queue, you have to acknowledge 2 key principles. 1. Solo queue will not always be well balanced and can often be unfair. 2. Understand that you cannot win all of your games. The sooner that you make peace with this, the easier your life will become in the ladder. In some instances, guys, you can play out of your mind and still lose. And the reason I'm telling you this is not to make you feel bad and to devolve you of even less hope, but to give you hope. Now, taking responsibility of your own performance is a massive part of improving, and we're going to talk about that later. However, first we have to establish that a small portion of your games will be unwinnable. The trick and the skill is learning to differentiate between these burner games and the hundreds of other games that you can impact. Your aim throughout solo queue should be to play consistently well at your role and make good decisions the majority of the time. Having an agreement with yourself where you accept these points will help with your mental over the duration of your climb. Following up on this then, my second point to improving at solo queue is to understand that you are going to lose and that it's okay to lose. In fact, losing is the first step towards winning more often than not. Throughout our solo queue travels, we are conditioned to think that a win equals good and that a loss equals bad. This is because we enter each game, hopefully, with the intention of winning. When the condition is not fulfilled, our default reaction is often to become frustrated or tilted. However, in the beginning, or even the mid-season climb, you have to learn to stop letting the win-loss determine whether your match was a success or not. If you lose a couple of games, yeah, it sucks, but you're still learning during these instances, sometimes more so than when you win your matches. It's a very difficult mentality to grasp, one which I definitely still struggle with at times. But if you can learn to manage this, you will begin to enjoy the game and the path to improvement rather than focusing on the outcome. This can do wonders for the mental over many games of your split. Now that we've understood that losses can and will happen to you, let's talk about how to win. The topic that no one wants to hear is that there is always something that you can be improving on with every single game that you play. Even in the games where your jungle mid duo goes 0-20, or that game where your ADC locks in Yuumi, you need to transform your way of thinking to be addressing yourself always, regardless of the external factors in your games. Now, I know this is easier said than done, but please just hear me out for a second. You shouldn't take this to the extreme by blaming yourself for every loss. However, you need to be constantly looking inward at your own gameplay, not outward at the external factors in your games. Self-absorption can be blissful, and learning to focus exclusively on your own performance instead of your teammates can be a peaceful zen once you achieve it. This perspective can be very hard to master, but again, the aim is to relieve your mental and help you avoid the distraction of blame redirection. Putting your ego to one side and acknowledging that you might not be as good as you think you are is okay. In fact, it's actually a win. Once you've addressed the fact that you are not a diamond player playing in Silver 4, you can begin to work on the improvements required to get out of that division. This can be particularly challenging as you may have been a much higher rank in the past, or maybe even this split. Self-confidence is great, but not if it's to the point where your ego is inhibiting how you analyse your games. Having an open mind and addressing that you've been Bronze 1 for 2 months probably means that you aren't stuck there because of your teammates. Learning to take each division of the ladder at a time and figuring out what is working for you in your wins is the first step to moving to the next rank. I found that accepting my current position and taking each division one step at a time was much more realistic and achievable than setting myself a rank goal 10 divisions away. On a more positive note, the next truth to accept is that the difference between you and the rank above you is incredibly close. In fact, it's way closer than you might think. There is this illusion that climbing from silver to gold requires much better micromechanics, i.e. clicking like a maniac and dodging every single skill shot, when in reality, this just isn't true. Whilst fast hands and good reflexes definitely help, decision making is incredibly more important in the long run. Choosing when to base, when to be ready for objectives, how to play towards your strongest teammate, are gameplay habits that are so much more important. These decisions can be learned from watching better players, streamers, watching YouTube guides, reviewing your own gameplay, and then putting said steps into practice consistently. The good news is that improvement can happen very quickly, and just because you're silver at the moment doesn't mean that you can't get back to gold in 2 weeks' time. Whilst watching guides can point you in the right direction, you need to also be playing games consistently in order to practice. How should you go about doing this then? Does it actually matter? For me personally, I found that playing 2 to 3 ranked games a day was way more productive for climbing than spamming 15 games in a row. Now you guys can obviously do as you please, and I'm certainly not going to try and tell you what to do. However, I would suggest this structure if you are struggling to climb at the moment. Always play 2 games with a maximum of 3. If you lose the first 2, stop queuing for ranked. You don't have to stop playing League that day, just get out of solo queue, play normals or log into another account. The twisted reality is that a loss streak is way easier to create than a win streak, and undoing all of your progress of the last few days, maybe even weeks, can be so mentally destructive. The way to prevent this then is to protect yourself by having a system. The 3-game structure can be followed once or multiple times a day depending on how much free time you have. Just make sure to take a break in between your sessions of solo queue and stop after a few losses. Playing when refreshed will help you focus better and also chase the wins harder. You'll be less likely to surrender away games if you're only allowed 2 or 3 games at a time. I understand that not everybody wants to succeed like this, and that's cool guys. But if you're stuck on another bender of ranked, you're still back where you started and it's not going well, then give this a shot and see how you get on. Next up is a nice easy one. When on the Rift, learn to relax and focus on doing your job. Sometimes it's easy to see a bad team member and feel the need to overplay to cover their weakness. This is a nice mentality to have, but sometimes it can actually lead to you overforcing and making the game state worse for your team. If you're a scaling mid laner, you don't always have to all in level 2. If you're a bronze support, protecting and peeling is often more useful than flashing forward and ulting. When playing Blitz in the mid game, I was so obsessed with trying to protect every teammate all over the map. I found myself exhausted after games, and I eventually realised that this didn't have to be the case. For me, I had to learn that simply doing my job to a high standard was way more productive and relaxing than trying to outplay at every opportunity. Waiting a few more seconds with my team with my hook up and ready was way more productive than flashing forward and trying to make that mad life play. In solo queue, 90% of the time it's about waiting for mistakes, not outplays. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get involved or give up your agency, but don't feel the need to overcompensate all over the map all the time. Do your job and do it well. You can easily improve your fundamentals by reviewing your games and finding common mistakes. Do you always have a death pre-level 3? Why is this happening? Why are you dying to the jungle ganks from the same bush time and time again? Are you wasting your trinkets? Are you constantly out of mana? Are you frequently losing the all-in level 2? There are so many factors that tie into our decision making and movements in every game that we play. Some of these are bad habits, and the only way you will identify these is by constantly reflecting on the key moments of your games. If you're unsure where to begin with this process, boot up your last 3 games of solo queue and review your first 3 deaths. Was there any patterns or consistencies across these games? Could you have made better decisions for you or your team? Number 9. Don't play after 1 AM if you can help it. This is peak degeneracy hours where Anivia jungle and Yuumi top roam free. I know this sounds like a meme, but I found these lobbies to be completely coin flip, mostly down to who got the most unhinged crackhead. I would avoid this time slot like the plague unless you have no other option but to play then. You guys know what I'm talking about. Surrendering versus enemy mistakes. Players all the way up to Emerald make hundreds of mistakes per game. Players all the way up to Emerald will throw games that are 90% free. Teammates will take the Baron, do wolves, walk to the red buff, consider recalling to spend the 2k gold in their inventory, only to then cancel the recall and walk into the enemy jungle and die. I'm telling you this because some players will surrender a very winnable game because they take a bad fight at the Drake or because they got aced once and are sad about it. Just like your teammates can throw before your very eyes, the enemy can do the exact same thing. I'm not saying that you should never surrender or hold the lobby hostage when your team is down 50 kills at 5 minutes. What I am saying is that in a ranked queue, you should be trying to chase that win even if it's a 10% chance or lower. This will ultimately be your judgment call, but if you follow my early advice of playing 3 ranked games at a time, then this philosophy should be easier for you to follow. In my climb, I saw numerous surrender votes that were completely premature and based on emotion alone. Looking up the enemy team before playing is a distraction. I'm all for these third-party applications like Professor that give you extra information or whatever before a match, build paths or CS counters or whatever can help. But what I'm not fond of is when the information about your lane opponent affects you before the match even begins. You are getting in your own head and allowing preconceived biases to affect how you're going to play before you even set foot on the Rift. How can you beat someone that you've already decided is better than you for whatever reason? These are a distraction and shouldn't be used to intimidate yourself, only to benefit yourself. The amount of times I've seen my teammates type, why am I getting matched against the Z1 trick? He's plat, I'm gold, this isn't fair, before the match even starts, and then after the match is done, the same teammate is typing, oh, actually he was shit. This is a tragic self-affliction, as you're already creating defeatist narratives of why you should lose before you even begin. If these applications are making you anxious or nervous before the match, then just get rid of them. In at number 12, another healthy technique that you can implement into your solo queue journey is to try and not look at your rank or LP after each match. If you can, don't look at your gains or losses for a few weeks or even at all. This is connected to our earlier point regarding prioritizing improvement over winning. Instead of becoming obsessed with the incremental LP gains or losses, try to focus on improving one aspect of your game each match, and use the fulfillment of this criteria to determine whether you're successful or not. This one is a hard technique to implement and it does require a lot of discipline, but the people who have managed this in the past will understand exactly where I'm coming from. Another good kick for the mental if you can pull it off. Next up is a big controversial one, and I feel a lot of you are not going to want to hear this. Duoing with a buddy can often ease the pain of solo queue, but it is not often the best for your climb. Firstly, duoing will distract you from your own skill improvement. If you're with someone, it will be harder to focus on your own mistakes because there's two of you in the game. Your buddy might be covering some of your weaknesses, which will postpone you identifying and addressing these problems. In addition, although you probably don't want to hear it, playing with a buddy who is currently better than you is ultimately using them as a crutch, which might lead you to think that you're better than you currently are. This can be good for the ego, but it can also lead to false confidence, and thus a sharp shock and loss of LP when said duo buddy is no longer available. Finally, duoing will often make your games harder, as matchmaking will often counterbalance your team to accommodate your two-man advantage. It can be a tough and lonely road, but solo queuing is the overall best way to self-improve in the long run and thus help you achieve your end of season goals. When you do get there, you can bask in the knowledge that you and you alone achieved the rank. It was you and all you. As we come to the end of our list, we're going to pivot slightly. Although this guide is to help you win in solo queue, I'm going to briefly caveat for a moment. If the climb is making you genuinely unhappy, then something is wrong and you need to identify what this means for you. Being able to admit that League is causing you consistent frustration or anxiety is a skill and one that needs to be developed. I know this is going to sound cringe, but it's okay to take a break and do something else for a week if you need to. If your goal is to climb, I understand that you can't climb without playing. However, if you're facing bad game after bad game, then taking a break will benefit you, either by protecting you from a loss streak, as discussed earlier, or by allowing you to return with a refreshed perspective when you come back. Either way, this sounds counterproductive, but taking some time off can inadvertently send you up the ladder. To wrap up with our final pointer, I found that, even in the games where I felt like I was failing, improvement was gradually but constantly happening. Make sure you're reviewing your mistakes and believe in the mental tools that we have discussed. This does require a certain degree of trust and almost a blind faith at times. However, more often than not, you are getting better over time, even when you can't see it. Improvement can happen quickly for some players, where changing one or two minor decisions per game can shoot you up a ton of LP. However, for most of us, improvement is a gradual path. Once you've identified things to tweak in your gameplay, iron out your mistakes gently over time and the climb will happen naturally. Don't freak out if you lose a few games in a row, don't abandon the principles you've learned this far, hold out and trust in the process. This was 15 techniques or mindsets that I have implemented that helped me in my solo queue climb this split. If you enjoyed the video and want to see a list of 15 more practical in-game tips for climbing as a support, then please check out my second video in this mini-series. As mentioned prior, most of these ideologies have come from other places online, so I've tried my best to link most of these in the video description. If there's any tips that you think I might have missed or would like to share your own advice for climbing, then please share it in the comments section below. I have been Jack, aka Mr. Wolfie. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.